Hi, you ever wonder, how do I start a Botox business? Well, you know what? You've come to the right place. We're actually going to go through, and over the next few minutes, we'll talk about that and what makes for success in a Botox business. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we know that if we have a clear plan, anything becomes possible. And if you can have a clear plan, a clear process to create that plan, and a way to create clarity with your partner or spouse, you can drive to amazing heights. So when it comes to starting any business, whether it's a Botox business or construction business, whatever it is, there's some very solid fundamentals. And I do actually have a little bit of experience in this space. I know when you're working with this, it's hard to understand how. No, I'm joking. I haven't had Botox, but I've known people and I've worked with some folks that have had Botox businesses. I've had the good fortune to work with people all over the world. I started my first of 16 companies when I was 19. I have helped and advised on hundreds and hundreds of businesses. So this is what I do. But there's 4 basic fundamentals we're going to talk about today. And those fundamentals are, first, let's define what are your motivations and what does success look like. In other words, why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you choose to do this? And what is it that you're going to be able to do better than anybody else? The second point, defining what we do. So first is defining your motivations. Why are you doing this? And what does success look like? Second, defining what is it you do better than anybody else. Third, how we create a team of advisors that are going to help you be successful. Now remember, you as the owner are going to be accountable 100% for everything being done. But it doesn't mean you have to do it. It means you have to be able to find people and know people that you trust who can ensure that those things are done. And then lastly, how do we build a roadmap to make sure that we are very, very successful, but that without any doubt, when we decide to take that step to start our company, we're off to the races, we're winning. So to start with, motivations. All right, let's be clear on this. There's a couple of different types of motivations. So if you're currently in an office and you're working for a doc and you want to do your own thing, but the doc is just an asshole and you really don't like you love what you do, but you hate the doc, I'm going to ask you to really consider that, because it might be that you might be great at being an employee and it's easy. You're just in a bad office. So if you've got an asshole who for a boss, leave. Go find somebody else. But if you say, look, I really like these things, but I don't have control over my hours, over these other pieces, fair enough. That starts to clarify some of those motivations in a different way. Sometimes there is the ability to make a lot more money. Sometimes there isn't. Because when you factor in, and we'll talk about how you factor all these things in a little bit later in the video, on what is it that's really making it and what are the margins that you can and can't make out of this. There are some other challenges, especially in this space, because there can be some pretty big insurance liabilities that we need to make sure you're clear on. So the other factor with this is if you can start to define, where do you want to be? What does a vision look like, so that from a year from now, if you could wave a magic wand, what would amazing look like for this business? If you knew that you could have, what would it look like, but in a holistic manner, not just in the money, but in what does it look like in your home life, in your relationships, maybe your spouse or your family, kids, whatever, friends. Maybe it comes down to what is your health, your physical, your mental, your spiritual. What does it look like for your time, talent, and treasure, your resources, and then that quality of life? But really look at it on a holistic level. And sometimes people have a really hard time with this, but if you like, you're welcome to go to our site, theaspiringsolopreneur.com, and here's our book. But you go to the Aspiring Solopreneur and check it out. And there's a tool on there called the Balance Wheel. It's free. You can go in and in about 6 minutes, take it. It'll give you immediate results, and it'll give you an idea of where you stand today. And you can use a little bit of each one of those quadrants to define, where do I want to go? Where does that look like in the future? So who knows? Maybe it means that you want to make sure you can go to every one of your kids' soccer games. Right on. Maybe it means that you want to have the flexibility to exercise 3 hours a day and go to yoga. Cool. Maybe you want to take 2 months off a year and do adventure travel. Yes, please. That's mine. I like to do that, and I like to be able to ski, and sometimes in the middle of the week I'll go for a ski for 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the day. But I'm very purposely and intentionally built that vision of where I want to be. What are those motivations, and being clear on it. Now the second part then with this is, once you have it, it's important for you to be able to start breaking this down and discussing it if you have a partner. Now, when you talk with and this is your romantic partner, when you talk with this person, make sure that they understand, hey, here are my motivations. Currently, I love what I do, but I don't like the environment I'm in, and I don't like the hours, but I think I can do these other things, and I'm going to explore these, and it would then empower me to have time to spend more time with you, do these other things, whatever that is. But the purpose is to communicate those things. Because the reality is we're all kind of crappy psychics, and the more that you can help somebody understand why you're looking at doing what you're doing, what are your motivations, and what amazing would look like for you, then you're going to create a champion out of that. Versus if you come home someday and say, you know what, honey, I quit my job today and I signed a note for all this equipment and 3 years in an office space, and it's going to about $400,000, and I'm going to start a business. I hope it works out. I promise that's not going to be a healthy conversation. So instead, if you can say, I'm working towards these things, I'm exploring this, I haven't invested any dollars yet, but this is where I want to go, that is going to help somebody understand what you're looking at and create that champion. So that's our first part, is defining our motivations and what amazing looks like where we want to go. Second is defining what is it you do. What is it you do better than anybody else? And I like to steal from the old hippie singer in the 60s named Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. It pains me that I have to explain who Jerry Garcia is. But he was great at marketing. And he had a quote that in essence suggests that the goal isn't to be the best at what you do. The goal is to be the only one who does what you do. So I would challenge you when you're thinking about this, how do you create a niche that you are so extraordinary in what you do that you have no competition? When you have no competition, then you get to change your rates, you get to be in control of how you control a lot of the things that you do. So when you start thinking about this, go back to what are the skills you have, and maybe you end up needing some others. Or what is the experience you're offering, and why does somebody care? Maybe it's something that you can come visit people directly, or maybe you have a really discreet location, or who knows what it is. You're going to understand the space better than I in those areas. But start looking at what are the things that you do better than anybody else, and then how can you create this experience in a way that is so different that nobody else can understand it. Now, a good way to do this is to start checking out other people. If you're in a regional market, you probably already have the ideas, but let your fingers do the walking. You can go anywhere on the planet and see how do they do Botox in Rio de Janeiro, which there's a lot of smoking hot people in Rio. You can go to, how are they doing this in Lagos, Nigeria, Switzerland, wherever it is. But let's see how other people are doing this. And maybe there's some things there that you can adopt and start to create and bring in to what you already have. And there's a way that you can start helping people start to do that in a different way. How do you look at what your product offering could be? Now, you haven't created it. You're starting to identify what it could be. But we haven't spent any money yet. Again, and by the way, it has never, ever been easier to start a business and very, very, very safely transition from an existing gig into a new gig. Never been easier since the dawn of time. But you need to be very intentional with this, and you have to be pragmatic to decide, is this what I want to go? What does it look like? So we've gone through, we've defined our motivations, boom. You've started to smoke out what you could be doing and what's going to make you unique. What is your offering? Why does somebody care? Who are the people you're going after? What does it matter? Now, the third thing we're going to talk about is how do you create a team of advisors? And when it comes to creating a team of advisors, remember, you're accountable for everything, but I guarantee you can't know it all. So this is where, again, without investing any dollars, you're going to go out and start talking with people who are the experts. And we talk about this in the book and other videos on this channel. And we have a whole course, self-guided, solopreneur.com, where you can do this whole course, full videos, self-paced, with coaching as needed to help you figure out how to ask all the questions, how do we find these people, and what does it look like. But let's give some examples. So the primary people you're going to need for your team of advisors are going to be a good small business accountant, a good small business attorney, a good small business banker, maybe a good small business insurance person, possibly a small business marketing person. And that's usually the basics. You have that and it's gonna work. Now I really emphasize small business because you could say, I need a banker. There's 1,000 different types of bankers, from investment bankers to private equity bankers to derivative bankers, all the way down to small business bankers. Finding the right one is critical. I usually suggest let's find a good accountant first. And there's a whole bunch of different ways, and again on other videos we talk about this. But when you find a great small business accountant, and remember with all these people, they're typically small business owners themselves, or they're accountable for bringing in new clients. And 99% of the time, they're going to invest a half hour to an hour on their dime, no expense to you. If you say, look, I'm exploring starting a new business, would you have some time to sit down with me? Yeah, great. And you bring them in, you sit down with them and say, okay, I'm looking at doing this. What do I need to know? Okay, well, what kind of equipment are you going to need? Okay, what about a lease? Okay, what are you going to need there? Okay, have you thought about what sort of financial structure, what sort of business entity? Do you want to do an LLC? Maybe there's better insurance there. Let's talk to the insurance guy. I'll recommend someone. Or maybe we do a subchapter S, maybe we do a sole proprietorship. I don't know. You're going to find these people and you can talk to them. But they're going to ideally be able to connect you with other small business focused attorneys, insurance people, things like that can then start helping you to ask a lot of questions. And remember, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you can as you speak. Listen twice as much. Ask questions and be really, really curious. As you're curious, you can say, well, do you know anybody else who's doing this? Do you know anybody else who does something similar to this? A lot of times they will. Maybe they can even make an introduction. Who should I be talking to? What other areas are there? What is the licensing like? What do I need to be aware of here? Things along those natures. But their job, point blank, is to make sure you're successful. And they can do that very, very consistently. But making sure you find those right people that you share your values with, that you trust, that can help you get to that next level, that's what's important. So the last thing is, once you start having this group of advisors, you've defined what you want to do, you define what amazing looks like and where you want to go. Well, you're actually creating a roadmap, and you're already filling in a whole bunch of questions. You're asking more, and you'll keep asking and learning more and more questions, and sometimes it's never done. But you're going to start creating a roadmap or a business plan that gives you confidence. It'll give your partner confidence. In some cases, it'll even give a banker confidence if you do it right, all the way through to where I know I am figuring out all the questions I need to be asking so that I can make sure I'm successful. When you get ready to decide, and again, we're doing all this without ever leaving your current gig. You can keep working, figure this out, do this as a side hustle, work on it little by little by little by little, figure it out. And sometimes you go down the road like, yeah, man, it's not what I want to do. Or, oof, it's really tight, I don't know if it's going to work. I can tell you I have done this hundreds and hundreds of times. Most of the time it's not the right fit, or it pivots and goes into something else. But you're learning how to do this better and better and better each time. Now, with the course at theaspiringsolopreneur.com, where we've got all the videos and all this step-by-step stuff, the reality is you fill that whole thing out, you're going to have a beautiful business plan without even knowing you built a beautiful business plan. It doesn't have to be intimidating. And the last thing, there's steps in there to say, yeah, is this a no-brainer to make this step? When you do that, you can very safely transition from where you are to owning your own business. So when we come back to the 4 ideas, we've got defining your motivations, defining what you do and what you do better than anybody else, creating that amazing team of advisors, and building a roadmap that knows and guarantees you'll be successful. You do those things, the world's yours. So if you enjoyed this, hopefully you did, would love it if you would follow us, subscribe, there we go, subscribe. And if you have any comments or questions, please don't be afraid of reaching out. We'd love to hear from you, and watch some of the other videos on the channel. Hey, thank you for investing the time. Keep smiling.